Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome as usual to the UK Brand Show. Hi, Pen.
Hi, Mark. How are you doing? You've been travelling again.
I have actually.
Social media.
Yes, I have been travelling actually, and there's a link to today's guest why I was travelling. Because yes, I was invited to run a seminar for publishers from where were they from? Germany, Austria, and Luxembourg, out in Graz in Austria. Our guest today, who I'll come to in a second, invited me over to do it. And it was great. It was really good. It went really well. The only downside was actually getting there, which was a nightmare. And I mention it because very rarely would we call people out on the show, but I've got to because I'm seething.
You've had enough.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? And the culprits are KLM. And I would say to anyone listening, be careful when you fly with these guys because they're absolutely awful.
Customer service.
Oh, the customer service was terrible. So in a nutshell, I was flying on an early flight from London City Airport to Canary Wharf here. And I get a message on the morning as I'm about to leave the house to say, your flight's being cancelled because of the weather. It's too windy. So trying to get hold of anyone at customer services apart from a chatbot was just stupid at that time in the morning, not knowing what happens next. Because I've got to be in Austria that day to set up, to start the thing the following morning.
And that's the problem when you're flying for work rather than pleasure. The pressure's so much greater, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely right.
Okay, so what do I do now? I could do with some help.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So anyway, I finally get through to someone at the airport rather than KLM because they were useless. And the guy said, look, come to the airport, dump yourself on them. They're going to deal with you there. And anyway, I got a taxi to the airport, found the KLM people. There were planes flying over my head from BA. There were other airlines still flying. It was only KLM that stopped flying for some reason. And even the people on the check-in desk didn't know this because they were saying, oh, all flights being cancelled. I'm saying, well, I've just seen one go fly over my head. No, and if you turn your chair around, you'll see all the baggage carousel of other airlines checking people in. Like, did you not open your eyes? Anyway, long story short, they took me in a taxi, put me in a taxi to Heathrow, which was a nightmare because it was 2.5 hours through central London at peak hour from east to west London. Get there. The idea then was to go on an afternoon flight on BA. That again got cancelled for whatever reason. And they put me eventually, after running around different terminals, trying to find the KLM people who I originally booked it with because BA couldn't help me at that point. They put me on another airline, Austrian Airlines, to go later in the afternoon, which was delayed about 2 to 3 hours again. And they put me on a flight to Vienna. And when I got to Vienna, that was delayed another 2.5 hours.
Oh, my goodness.
I finally got to my hotel at 1 a.m. the next morning. And I left home at 7 a.m. the previous day, 17 hours.
What a day.
Awful. And that was just one of those things I thought until you try and speak to some of the KLM customer service about it, and they just dismissed me in a little short email saying, "Well, it was a weather problem, so bye," basically. So I'm trying to liaise with customer services at Amsterdam, the director of customer experience, rather, at this moment. What they don't know, I've also, being a media show as we are, Pen. People will know that the Evening Standards of the Independent's Simon Calder, who is being told to pick up the story on my behalf. So between us, they travel.
Hopefully, you'll get some results. There
will be a result, and I'll report back on the next show, if not, or the one after, whenever it happens to be.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed.
I'm speeding about the whole thing. You know, even the connecting flight coming home was a nightmare. I missed that as well for their fault, which I won't even bore you with now. But
so anyway. You were a true advert for don't fly anywhere.
Don't fly KLM, that's for sure. I would advocate that. Anyway.
How was the conference anyway? Was it worth it?
So yeah, it was. So it was held at a media centre in Graz in Austria, where there's a newspaper group there called the Kleine Zeitung. And on the top floor, they have a sky room where they hold conferences and things. So that's what I did. So it was all about the future of advertising. Right. Media can expect. And that's not necessarily our guest, who today is a man called Dietmar Schantin. And Dietmar Schantin is the principal of something called the Institute for Media Strategies. He's Austrian, and his hometown is Graz, funny enough, in Austria, where we had the thing. And he helps newsrooms, basically, so that's the editorial side of the business, with things like digital transformation and reorganization and digitization strategies. And he was asked through he does regular things with these people and clients in between. And he was asked by this bunch of publishers, could he do something on advertising? So he asked me to go out there and do that, and how it links into what he does from the newsroom side. But it occurred to me while we were out there and talking between us that what Dietmar does very much links into SMEs, because a lot of the stuff he does about digital transformation, how you take the first steps and blah, blah, blah with newsrooms and media is the same concepts. And we've said this many times before, the same concepts in small businesses and big businesses and whatever industry, the principles are the same. So
there's still people adjusting to the digital environment. I do a lot of work in the sort of care home sector, and CQC have required all of them to adopt online record keeping by the end of this year, 2023. And it's surprising how many are still using paper. So I know that's not a marketing side, but there's a lot of businesses who still have not embraced sort of digital systems or digital marketing, even now, which is still a bit of a surprise, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe not, because I think what's not a surprise is the fact that some people just don't know what to do. You know, they are a small business. Yeah. No one's holding my hand automatically. Who do they reach out to do that? So that's what the likes of, you and I do, and that's what the likes of Dietmar does from an editorial perspective mainly.
I think there's also, some people are using social media, but they're just doing organic posts. They haven't taken the next step of connecting, advertising, following that journey in a much deeper way than just doing one post a week or whatever.
You're absolutely right. So I'm really delighted. He's going to join us any second now, next couple of minutes. But just his background, he used to be executive director for something called the World Association of Newspapers. So, I'm attached to the International News Media, which is a same sort of non-profit organization. The difference being that the World Association of Newspapers and news publishers, it's called WANIFRA now. And what they do, they look after mainly the editorial side of the business. And that includes freedom and newsrooms and publishing, as in the physical printing of newspapers, all that sort of stuff. Whereas in my associate is more about the business cases, the marketing and the advertising side of business and data and business models for media. So that's where there's overlap and no overlap, if you see what I mean. So he used to be, he was a former director there. He is an education mentor still at the University of Central Lancashire. And as I say, he's the principal for this thing called the IFMS, which is the Institute for Media Strategies. So he'll tell us a little bit more about what he does. And then we'll ask him about how he thinks, because it was our conversation in Graz in Austria that led to today, really, because it just dawned on me that, what he does very much links into what we talk about.
Is relatable for SMEs and...
Yeah, it's right. So he works with clients around the world, and I think I'm just looking. I did see something here about who he's been working with in the past year. I'm talking about clients all over the place, from Austria itself to the Hindustan Times, looking at things like social and data as drivers for reinventing their news operation with mobile. The New Zealand Herald, bringing radio into the world of digital and print publishing. He's been involved in projects in Austria, in Germany, in the Handelsblatt. There's a news group out there, and looking at things like market insight and research and editorial and content strategy and development, et cetera, et cetera. So it'll be very, very relevant to what we do. And without further ado, I think we have Dietmar joining us right now.
Hello. Hi, Mark.
Dietmar, hello.
How are you?
Hi.
Hello. Hi.
Welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Hey, now, I first thing to say, I'm sure, I don't think you are anyway. You're not in San Francisco, are you?
No, I'm not. Actually, I'm on the Maldives, so that's why
I
this
see.
picture.
You didn't want to make us too jealous about
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
No.
Well, listen, welcome. I've just told everyone about where we last met out in Austria.
Yeah.
And we've known each other for many years, actually, never mind Austria. I've always been very impressed with what your organization does. And I gave a little flavor of what it's about, but maybe you could put a bit more meat on the bone for us first. So tell us about the Institute for Media Strategies.
Yeah, the IFMS is a very small organization now. So COVID, actually, the pandemic situation changed the setup of the company. We are very small now, and we work mainly with newspaper publishers and magazine publishers on their digital strategies. So how can they really become digital and use the new technologies to earn money, basically, on the web, if you like.
Yeah.
And we are lucky enough to have customers all around the world, but the challenges are very similar everywhere. So it's basically becoming digital, not only on the surface, but in the core of the business.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because I was just saying to Penny now that, when we were chatting in Austria, which is how today came about, really, that, it dawned on me talking to you and what you do with a lot of newsrooms and media companies around the world, that the principles and concepts of what you do are very similar to a lot of SMEs that we deal with on this show.
Absolutely.
It's just about scale, isn't it, really, at the end of the day, how big or small you are.
Absolutely, because the principles, news and in the digital times now, back then this news organization sold newspapers, but now they sell digital products, and whatever you do, you are selling a product, and this can be a material good from a small company or another service. The principles of selling and using digital for the pre-sales, the after-sales, knowing the customer, who are you selling to? And what are his or her expectations? This is the same as with all companies. So the principles are exactly the same.
Yeah. And tell us, how did you get into the work that you're doing now? You've always been I was mentioning you're a former director of WANIFRA, and explain what that was. Is that where you started your sort of news career?
It was actually a little bit earlier. Yeah, WANIFRA is the international body for news publishers. So and I worked there for many years on digital newsrooms, digital advertising. But before that, actually, I came to newspapers when I ran a little company, a spin-off of a media company in Austria that built websites for news organizations. And back then, the mother company of this company bought a newspaper in Croatia.
Right.
And they asked me to go to Croatia and help them to reorganize the newsroom and also introduce a new system there. So this is where I learned everything about newspapers. And very, very long time ago, I was already in media. I was at the Austrian Broadcasting Corporation as a studio engineer. So this was my first contact with media. And since I'm with newspapers, I think it's a great industry. So I love it.
And still is. And I use the phrase, occasionally in the conferences that we both go to sometimes, I say to people, look, I think you're either about the digital future in news publishing. I think you're either scared or excited. Exactly. And if you're scared, then go and do something else. But if you're excited, and I'm really, and you are, I know, really, and Penny's really excited about the future of news media. Unfortunately,
the danger is, even if you go somewhere else, digital is everywhere. Yeah. So if you're scared of digital, it might be difficult to find a job that really excites you, because all industries are affected, and the chances are huge. And now, especially, everyone talks about ChatGPT now, and this is obviously, journalism is one big area where it has an effect, but every company with this AI and machine learning has now huge opportunities again.
Yeah, well, in fact, that's maybe a good place to start, actually, since you mentioned it. I mean, how do you see them? It's in the news all the time now. I signed up this morning to Google. Have just launched their thing called Bard. Yes. And I've signed up now I'm on the waiting list now to try it myself.
Me too. Yeah. Okay, I think 504,000. So there are loads of people waiting. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's right. So, but what's your take on the whole AI thing?
No, yeah, it is actually with all new technology, or if you also take gunpowder, you can make wonderful fireworks with gunpowder, but you also can make weapons or ammunition. So same with ChatGPT or AI, you can use it for good or you can use it for bad. There's now loads of warnings out there that scamming becomes more easier now for people, because these, for example, ChatGPT can really produce content or text that is very close to human writing. Usually when you get these scam emails, you find somewhere a typo because it was written by a non-native speaker. Now with ChatGPT, you wouldn't notice the difference. So this is the bad side of things. You can, a lot of fake content or fake news when you talk about, but also for other industries, fake content can be produced. On the other hand, it's much easier now for anybody, even if it's a very small company, to be present on social media, because not everyone is good in writing things. But with ChatGPT and this, it's very easy to basically write a little text that goes on Facebook then, and which sounds professional. And this is for every SME very valuable to use these tools. So I can only encourage everyone to look at it and see where it can help your business to communicate. It's mainly for communication in the first step.
I guess, like many things in this space, you've got to go in it with eyes open, in as much as it seems, and I think you just touched on it, is fake and what the sources are. And that seems to be lacking at the moment with AI. You can guess something and it doesn't really tell you whether it's real or not, or where the source comes from.
And it will get worse. I mean, worse inverted commas, because AI will get better. And mainly with photographs, you know, that they are so realistic now, photorealistic. I was told yesterday by a photo where the Pope was in some rapper outfit, and it looked actually, people, apparently 90% believed the photo was correct and what was true.
I saw something with Zelensky and President Zelensky in saying we should lay down our arms now and let the Russians take over. And of course, it wasn't him, but it looked like it was him speaking.
And also that the whole voice simulation, so cloning, it's more and more difficult to trust what you hear, see, or read. And this is also something where every company, and especially news companies, where their main product is news or content, have a big challenge ahead of them, to build up the trust, and that basically people really know, okay, if this comes from the BBC, from the Times, from the Guardian, that this is actually true. So, but the same is valid for every other business that has any communication with its customers.
Yeah,
you know?
Right. So just going back specifically to news media and the newsrooms that you work with, and it may well touch on AI, depending on what you think. What are you seeing with regard to digital transformation in newsroom today across the world? Do you think it's still in its infancy? Do you think it's, they're well versed, depending on who you're speaking to, is it? And does AI, for example, fit into that equation?
It is very varied, depending on the country, the culture, but also within a country, it's very different how far companies are in the digital game. Some still only plug on digital to their old way of working, i.e. creating a newspaper, and then they also do something on digital. And other companies, especially in the Nordics, they have already come so far. They are really digital first and digital only, and make their money now with digital revenues. Yeah. Whereas in the rest of the world, it's mainly still the paper that brings the bacon home. So it varies, and it's all everywhere the same. It's basically, it's not about technology. It's not resources. It's about mindset. And this is something where the big difference is. You can plug it on to your old way of working, or you can think about, okay, so how can I do my job in a different way by using the digital opportunities.
And does the digital transformation era mean less people, do you think, than before?
No, not necessarily. No. But people with different skills.
Right. So there may be a process for people to go through hiring different people with different skill sets.
Or train people up.
Yeah.
So this is absolutely, so in my field of work, my attitude is always, we have a good workforce, highly educated people. They have difficulties to work with digital, but let's educate them, or let's train them. again, it's about mindset. If people want to move and want to get trained, but there's not less people. What will happen is that certain tasks that are now quite hideous or boring in the newsroom, for example, writing press releases and then republishing them, this can be done with AI. But this frees up time for more investigative journalism,
right?
More analysis, for more high-value content. So quality content in terms of going deeper and not just reporting. So no, not less people, but people with an open mindset and people who are willing and to learn new things. People who only want to do what they have been doing for 20 years, they will have difficulties to keep up.
So if you had to put it in a nutshell, Dietmar, what would you say that digital transformation means to publishers generally?
Basically, changing the way how you perceive the communication with your customers, how you have your internal workflows, but also how you interact with your environment. So in terms of pre-sales, when people want to order subscription or so, there's much more focus on a frictionless way to do it. Nobody will call to buy a subscription anymore. Everyone wants to do it on mobile. So the same for if there's any problem. So if the app doesn't work or so. So then the customer expects that there is a chat, that there is maybe in future also a bot that basically gets the most important answers out. So just using technology and things that have been done in a certain way, replacing it or enhancing it, actually, not even replacing, enhancing it with the digital ways of communicating. It has upsides and downsides. The downside is that this personal contact is replaced by digital interaction. So it's very difficult then to talk to someone because everyone is used to just chatting. So that's the challenge here. But again, using all the technologies and also that attitude change, especially with young people who grow up in the digital environment, who have never seen in their life a corded phone or have never used a phone that doesn't have a touch screen. They completely think in a different way. By understanding it, how they think and what habits they have, to adapt to this process and not say, oh no, we do it our way, the customer has to change. No, we have to serve. And this is something where there's still a lot to do in many media companies, because either the customer focus is missing or the skills are missing, sometimes the technology, but there's a long way to go still.
What do you think the first steps that people are starting to take? I get the sense as well that during the pandemic, there has been a lot of change, a lot of adoption of online, shall we say, and now awareness of the AI stuff that's now coming through. So what do you feel the first steps are that where do people start?
Really to understand the customer. And not to...
It's traditional marketing in many ways.
It is always about the customer first. And it's not asking him what the customer wants, but really understanding it. The people use the word empathy. And this is something that is always step zero. Before anything else, we need to know who we are dealing with, how this person interacts with us, wants to interact with us. Also the term quality, you mentioned before, quality. What is quality? Quality is not a perfect product. No, quality is meeting the expectations of the customer. So how can you produce quality if you don't know what the customer actually expects? So this is the first step, is always understanding who the customers is. And there is not one customer, there are different groups of customers. So, and they have different needs, and to cluster 5 or 6 tops, more is not practically anyway, 5 or 6 customers with different behaviors and different attitudes. And this is, again, also true for SME. not every company has just one type of customer, and who is maybe 55 years plus, white, male. No, it's far more complicated now. And this is also for SME, try to learn more about how your customer ticks. Mm. And there are tools out there, but they're not expensive. It's, again, mindset.
And that was the next question, really. I mean, it doesn't have to be expensive, all of this, does it?
No, you need an Excel sheet. That's all you need. If you have Excel, then you are fine. So there is a book, actually, that I used many, many years ago, and it's still valid. It's called, now I forgot the name of the book. I can post it afterwards. It's called Drilling Down. You can get it on Amazon.
Okay.
And it's from, it was written, the first edition was in 2004. And he explains how you can, with a simple Excel sheet, and he also offers the Excel sheets on his website, do a customer scoring based on their behavior. So that he uses, or he invented maybe, the so-called RFM model, recency, frequency, monetary model, which is actually, the Financial Times uses it now, or a few years ago. It's basically understanding based on the behavior, how loyal your customer is, what kind of products he or she wants. It depends what kind of SME you have, how many products. And then you create scores. And based on these scores, you can treat different customers in a different way. You can almost predict when a customer comes back, or even better, you can predict when he's going to leave you. You can do something in advance. Again, it's all about really understanding the customer, and it doesn't need to be expensive. You don't need a hugely expensive CRM or anything like
that. Who wrote that book, Drilling Down?
I have to, hang on. Sorry, I have other screen. His name is Jim Novo.
Jim Novo,
yeah. J-I-M and then N-O-V-O.
N-O-V-O. Jim Novo. Okay, perfect. That's great. That's a good recommendation. Thank you for that.
Yeah, so it is so simple. It's painfully simple.
I guess the other thing to add to that is I think it's a realization, again, just touching on what you said. I think in terms of where you start, it's about, as you say, understanding the customer and understanding that the customer today, it's not a monologue that it used to be. You know, with a newspaper, for example, you used to tell them, you know, this is the news, this is the content, this is where they're giving it to you, and take it or leave it, basically.
Exactly.
But now it's all about a dialogue, isn't it? There's so many different ways people to interact with us, et cetera, et cetera.
It's a conversation.
And they want content when they want it, in the place they want it, in the format they want it. And we've got to realize that, whoever you are, what
and it is a conversation also. So listening to the customer, and as a news publisher, also listening to the comments, what comments they have, to find out the sediment of the comments. You can learn much about, okay, actually, how do people react to this story? You know, is this something that excites them or makes them angry? And then based on this, you can do something else.
Yeah. So based on what you've said there, it's I was going to ask a question. I think you probably answered it as well. I was going to say to you, do you think the future is all about technology, or is it about people and the skills they bring, or both? And I guess from what you've said, it's a mix of all of it.
It's both. It's both. Technology is an enabler, but you need the people to operate it.
Yeah.
So it is a former colleague from the university said, a fool with a tool is still a fool. So you need to learn how to operate it and how to use it. So getting the right people in is crucial.
Yeah.
But again, it depends on the size of the company, what needs to be done.
Yeah.
But just buying technology without you knowing how to use it is wasted money.
Yeah.
So rather get skilled people and technology afterwards. So that would be my advice.
And the other thing I wanted to add, which feeds into that, is, and again, it doesn't matter whether you're a big or small company here, it's getting people to, you said at the start of this conversation, mindset's really important. And I guess it's mindset from the top down and from the bottom up, because everyone needs to work with each other. And I think, you know, you'll probably agree with me from my experience in news media, getting rid of the silos in companies, again, big or small, it's still a challenge, isn't it, really? You've got to get everyone working across disciplines.
Yeah, it's a huge challenge, especially in news media, because one of the highest value of a news publisher or the editorial department is the independence. So nothing is allowed to influence the decision making of a newsroom.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, okay, we should write more about X because we have analyzed that people are more interested in that. Some newsrooms think, oh, you want to influence, you want to tell us what we have to write. No. It's again, as you said, give people what they want, what they need. It is this attitude, we are a service organization. And if people are interested in a certain topic, why shouldn't we provide more content? So this is just this part, but marketing and editorial, for example, I mean, they live on different planets, not even in silos.
And that's what you do, I guess, in terms of when you go into newsrooms, you'll try and break down those barriers.
Exactly, yeah. And they speak a completely different language. And of course, a newsroom and technology, that's not even a different planet. That's a different universe. So because they are completely talking in a different language and bringing them together. And for example, I always try to put people from the technology teams into the newsroom, that they also understand the product, that everyone understands how the other area works. Because otherwise you're still in your little world and you push something over to the other department and you have no idea what they are doing with it.
But how do you change that? Because that's fundamental, like inherent in many organizations.
I mean, there are several options. One is just have regular meetings. It's such a simple thing to talk about. So what are the plans? What have you done? What do you want to do? Ideally, also job rotation. That's the best thing. Let's put a technology person for 1 week into the newsroom. Maybe he won't be able to write an article, but he's part of the system. He can be an assistant or whatever. Or saying that a project, let's take a project manager from a newsroom, goes into technology and manages a little project there to understand how the different cultures are. So, but it starts with a regular sure fix, for example, you talk about, okay, these are our plans, these are their plans, and then you get a little bit of a feel. And this, and we talked about this remote and Zoom. It's not nothing you can do very well on Zoom. So basically get together, have a cup of tea, or even better, go out for a drink and so bring people together to socialize. To get that there's a mutual respect, because sometimes it's basically a thing of respect.
Would you advocate putting, say, someone in advertising into the newsroom as a permanent thing, so they're always there and working with each other?
Sure, yeah. And special or marketing or sales, so subscription sales.
Yeah.
Data analysts, also developers should be in the newsroom and not 3 floors down in the building. So these should be permanently there, so because we are all working on the same goal. And also, I mean, with this, obviously, also incentive systems need to be aligned, because sometimes the goals different departments have are conflicting. So, for example, advertising department wants to have as much as possible traffic on the website. The subscription department wants to have dwell time.
Yeah.
They want to have returning customers. The advertising department doesn't care about returning. They only want clicks. So this needs to be aligned. Otherwise, it's very difficult because everyone wants to basically get his bonus.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess that touches on what's coming later this year when, you know, this third-party cookie thing's going to disappear. Absolutely. And everyone's going to have to rely on their own data, their first-party data. And Penny and I have talked about this many times on this show, you know, using that wisely to benefit things like subscriptions and advertising and marketing and our insights for clients, etc. It's all linked together.
Yeah. And obviously first-party data becomes more and more relevant. So it is important that we know our customers. I mean, it's not just an IP address, an anonymous IP address. It's actually, you have a name behind it and you can track him across the different devices. For example, if you have a newspaper, goes to the website and mobile phone, it's important that he or she logs in so that you can trace this person. Okay, he's 80% on the mobile, only 5% he uses the website, and the rest is tablet. Making this up now. Yeah. But to be able to know who your customer is. In a small company, it's easy because if you're regionally focused, many SMEs know their customers. But when it's getting bigger, it's more difficult, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, Pen, you were itching to ask me then. Sorry, I was cut in.
No, it's okay. It's interesting to know also. So the things that you do with the media companies, what sort of things are then transferable to SMEs, for example?
The whole communication part, using social media, especially to communicate, to do a branding. I mean, it's about, and also to build up trust to the company, showing competence that actually my company is good in what it is doing. And this can be, and again, depending on the company, many people use Facebook, but it's not a young media anymore. So that the young people are on TikTok and not even Instagram anymore. But depending on your customer base, you need to be where your customers are. And the most important thing is with using these platforms is to be authentic and not try to be hip if you're not hip. So, but using all this communication, this so-called touch points, where can you reach your customer? Or even depending again on your industry, newsletters, to keep people informed about new developments. If you run a gym, for example, why not create a newsletter where once a month you basically inform your members about certain developments? You have a new course coming up, or you introduce new members, because it's also a community. Using these kind of communication tools, these touch points, to keep people with you and that they basically have a relationship with your brand, with your company. And this is the same as with news media.
Yeah, I think it's quite difficult as well, in terms of knowing your customer. And I feel a lot of it now isn't about age. I know a lot of 40-year-olds that are currently obsessed by TikTok because it just becomes a bit addictive, and they're not using Facebook anymore because it's boring. So it's not just about, the young people tend to adopt it first, and then they often move on once the grown-ups are there. So I think it's really challenging at the moment. I think the pandemic, the use of video calling, the more use of technology, et cetera, has changed all our habits, and we haven't sort of settled down yet. So I think SMEs, it's a real challenge to know, how do I know my customer better?
Yes, there's loads of research out there for free. I would start basically just with what is out in the space. Nielsen does stuff, and then there's lots of consumer research happening that is publicly available. And then also, why not talk to your customers? There's nothing wrong with having a conversation. Sometimes I recommend take your favorite customers and go out for dinner. Invite them for dinner, 5-6 people, and just have a chat.
Like a small focus group, really.
Exactly, yeah.
Good advice.
Yeah, but not asking, okay, so what do you want from me? So, but basically, what do you like? How does the whole process, if you buy something from me, what is easy? What makes it difficult?
What's your journey?
So for example, if you have an online shop, how do you think how easy it is to the checkout process? Is it a problem that I don't have PayPal, for example? These little things,
make all the difference.
Just talking to people and not being afraid of a feedback, because otherwise you say, oh no, I'd rather not talk to my customer. Maybe they give me bad feedback. That's the best thing that can happen to you. Otherwise you won't learn. So, and this is a very simple, not expensive, just get your 5-10 top customers in for a lunch or a drink in a relaxed atmosphere, and just look, I just would like to learn from you.
Well, it's fascinating stuff, Dietmar. I was going to say, if there are people listening or watching this show today and they want to get in touch at all, how do they do that? Where can they see what you do?
The company has a website where also loads of articles are.
What's the URL?
It's ifms-limited, so ltd.com.
So IF, so it stands for Institute for Media Strategies, ifms-ltd.com.
That's it. Yeah. And you find loads of articles that I wrote about these topics. And some are very specific to news media, but some are just principal things about leadership, about communication, about culture, about decision-making. So there's loads of stuff up there.
That sounds like, to me, like a really good place to start.
Really good.
I think so too.
Well, listen, Dietmar, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
I've got to say, if anybody else also wants to see you before you go, I've got to mention this. They can find you elsewhere, can't they? Because what you don't know, Pen, is this man has a musical career on the side as well.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've, amongst others, I play with, if someone likes Pink Floyd, I play in a Pink Floyd tribute band, and we have a gig in April at the Black Barn in Enfield. So
yeah, and what date is that?
That's the 15th of April.
15th, Saturday, isn't it? It's 15th.
It's a Saturday, yeah.
So go and see a band called Re Floyd in Enfield on the 15th of April, and you'll see this man on the bass. Dietmar, thank you so much for joining us today. We've really enjoyed having you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Very
Have
good.
a great day.
We'll see you soon. Bye for now.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, there we go.
Madeira on the 15th. Otherwise, I'd go.
Oh, a shame. Well, the funny thing is, when Dietmar said to me, would you like to come on the 15th and see me? I'm like, oh, you said, you never believe this. But the following night, I'm actually seeing a different Pink Floyd band in London.
No.
So I said, it might be a bit much seeing two Pink Floyd gigs in one weekend, but I'll definitely go and see him at some point, yeah. But yeah, really a lot of the stuff he talks about just makes sense, doesn't it? You know, SMEs, big media companies, whatever.
Yeah, no, it certainly does. And I think, you know, we always need reminding about follow the customer journey and also understand your customers more. You know, I think doing those sort of small focus groups is a really good idea for any business.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, I was thinking that when you were saying that. I said, it's so obvious, but no, so many people just don't even think
do it. No.
So anyway, so that's it for this week, Pam.
Thank you,
If
Mark.
you want to get in touch.
Oh, indeed, yes. Well, you can listen to more shows on our website, which is the ukbrandshow.co.uk. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and we're on YouTube, as you know, if you're watching this video. So do get in touch with us.
Excellent. And we'll be back very soon with more of the same.
Indeed. See you soon.
Bye for now, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Bye.